Monaco Grand Prix is in the books, and we head to another street race after this. Formula One returns to Monaco after a 1 year absence due to COVID last year, and we had a pretty interesting but typical Monaco race. Let's get into it. So before the race happens, Leclerc has a crash in qualifying, and there was the questions of whether or not that was done on purpose so that he could solidify his pole. Clearly not the case. Does not even get to start this Grand Prix due to the damage to his car. An absolute blow for the driver who was from Monaco, and of course for Ferrari. Definitely some really bad news for me to wake up to as an American. I was really looking forward to see what he could do. As we know, the driver who sits on pole and can get through those first couple turns typically goes on to lead every lap at Monaco. And that would basically be the case today. So lap one, the big race towards turn one and turn two, of course, Verstappen versus Bottas now. And Verstappen does hold him off, setting up Max for pretty much a flawless victory. I watched Mortal Kombat recently, so forgive the Mortal Kombat puns in there, but Max has a fantastic race. Not really on this board too much, the rest of it, because Verstappen pretty much got himself out front, and Red Bull got it all right today. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Mercedes just absolutely having a fantastic race for strategy-wise. Wow, the tides have totally turned in this one, because this time it was Red Bull, and Mercedes gets it all wrong today. Lap 6, I thought it was kind of interesting. The two Hasses have a pretty fun battle going through, the craziest turn in all of Monaco. Schumacher dives it in there and gets around Mazepin. At the time, that was really the only good racing going on at the track. The race would pick up midway through and get a little bit more interesting. We all know the issues with Monaco, which I'll talk about in a second. Lap 14, Mazepin gets a warning, flags for track limits. And then lap 19, Lando Norris gets the same warnings, and that would matter a lot because his day towards the end would be close. A close battle for that podium, and a 5-second penalty could have cost him, so that's something I really took note on there. Lap 29, the commentators start talking about why do we come to Monaco? There's no overtaking happening. At this point in the race, it kind of was just a follow the leader and no one can pass anyone type race. That's not anything new. I mean, most of these races, I think it's back to 2003, the leader has gone on to lead every single lap. You can't really overtake here. DRS doesn't play a role. Yes, there are things that could be done in the future to maybe make Monaco a little bit more interesting of a Grand Prix. Once again, notably, the F2 races were a little bit more interesting than this. Maybe the new car changes that. Maybe some track things need to be changed as well. But I did like their take on it, that it's not the whole reason why we come to Monaco. Monaco is an absolute historic track, and it is one of the races on the schedule that brings something different. You know that overtaking is going to be hard, so strategy and qualifying is everything in this. And that is a part of winning a driver championship and a constructors championship. So I hope they don't change too much. Yes, I would like to see more passing and more overtakes. Yes, I'd like it to be a little bit more interesting to see who could actually win this GP. But that said, there's not a minute of those 78 laps that I didn't enjoy watching those cars go around Monaco, and I think that's why it's the most famous race on the schedule to this day. So, lap 30, Hamilton boxes, and that was really interesting because they tried a strategy to get him out ahead of Pierre Gasly. It doesn't work, and in fact, Hamilton winds up losing some spots. Lap 32, or lap 31, I should say, Valtteri Bottas boxes, and I don't know what else to say for Mercedes other than they get it all wrong once again, and they have a major issue on the front tire on it. They can't get it off, and Valtteri had a chance to possibly win this race, at least podium, and get some really valuable points for Mercedes and for himself to make up some ground in the Drivers' Championship. Instead winds up retiring from the race. And now this is getting to a point where we've had so many issues with Mercedes pit stops that at some point we have to say what is going on with that team that they just cannot get it right. They cost Bottas any chance in this race and retirement, and pretty much, in my opinion, take him completely out of the Driver Championship at this point. His season's over as far as that's concerned. It would take a string of maybe 3 or 4 wins at this point to bring him back into it. And this is a continuing story that's dating back to the end of last year, and it's going to cost him the championship if it continues. And to boot, they get Hamilton's strategy a little bit wrong and don't give him the best strategy, and he winds up losing a few spots too, and it pretty much condemns him to 7th for the rest of this race. So, lap 32, Sebastian Vettel up to 5th place. As I wrote there, Hamilton also loses 2 spots. So, while Mercedes was getting it wrong, other teams were getting it right, and Aston Martin was one of those teams. They had a fantastic weekend and a really good Sunday. Sebastian Vettel put on a absolute clinic driving today, and the team got his strategy right. He gets himself up to fifth, and that's where he'd finish this Grand Prix. He has a great day, and I have it written down here, Seb, driver of the day. The fans agreed with that, and yeah, he had a fantastic run, his best run for Aston Martin, and we'll see if they can build on this now for him. His first points with this team. It's really good amount of points. We go to another street race in 2 weeks in Baku, so it's going to be interesting to see if Seb is going to start building some momentum, or if it's a one-off and they just really have their street cars down. Lap 34, Hamilton and Mercedes are really upset at this point. So they realized that they got it all wrong, and it was interesting that the team was kept relaying issues because Checo was also on a very good strategy, and it was evident that Mercedes was going to continue losing spots here, and Hamilton was on the radio very, very angry, and was unaware that Valtteri was out of the race at this point too, and wanted to know where he was, and realizing that he was out, it seemed like Hamilton kind of checked out at that point. A weekend that they're going to want to forget, but for us fans, makes the Driver and Constructor Championship so much more interesting, so I'm grateful for that. And let's be honest here, Hamilton's going to win a ton of races the remainder of this year, so I'm okay with one weekend like this. Lap 34, Max Verstappen finally comes in and boxes, and Red Bull is Red Bull with their pit stops. They get it perfect. He gets out, and to boot on lap 35, Checo comes in. So Checo takes the lead when Verstappen boxes and then stays out for a lap or two with no traffic, and he's able to do the much faster paces there, and goes up from, I think it was around 8th all the way up to 4th when he boxes and comes out. So he's ahead of Hamilton, but he also gains a couple more spots on top of that. Just perfect strategy by Red Bull on that one, and he winds up in 4th, and later on would have a fantastic battle to try and get on the podium. So after having a terrible qualifying, Checo really has a pretty good Sunday, and this is the kind of weekends that Red Bull want to start seeing more. He needs to get on a podium soon, and it's interesting to say that if he has a slightly better qualifying, I think it's no problem whatsoever that he's on a podium today. So we need to figure out those Saturdays for Checo, but Sundays are still getting stronger for him. This was a good weekend for Red Bull. Lap 47, a tough one for me as a McLaren fan. Daniel Ricciardo, who's usually so good at Monaco, gets lapped. And really a weekend he's going to want to forget. Finishes out of the points. And just a really stark contrast between him and Lando Norris in this entire weekend. It seemed like he was getting better towards the end of the race, but in a track you can't really overtake in, too little too late for Daniel. And we're going to want to see Ricciardo start having some better performances. He's been really hit or miss so far with McLaren, and for me as a McLaren fan, that's tough to see. I know he's frustrated too. So, lap 65, we got a really good battle between Norris and Perez for 3rd. Checo was really, really pressuring at this point, and for me, I was kind of sweating it out. I love Checo, but obviously I want to see Lando on the podium, especially that beautiful livery that we had for McLaren. I would have been a little upset if he didn't get on the podium there, but Norris really responds fantastically, puts in a great drive in the last 5-6 laps there and holds off Checo. Lap 69, Hamilton does box for softs, and he gets the fastest lap, stealing it from Yuki Tsunoda, who was, I think, down like 13th or 14th and had done a similar thing to get fastest lap. So if no one had done that, it would have been just a point not awarded, of course. But Hamilton does go out there and salvage a point, making the championship just slightly closer. So he gets something out of nothing, but I'm sure he won't be happy with today. Lap 77, Yuki Tsunoda gets a warning for track limits. I only put that on the board because I put that on the board for every other driver, and I wanted to stay consistent. So, Max Verstappen gets his first podium and win at Monaco, and totally blows the championship wide open at this point. He is in the lead for the first time in his career, and we have someone other than Lewis Hamilton at the top of the driver standings. Might not last the rest of the season, but how much fun is this for us F1 fans? Carlos Sainz gets his first podium with Ferrari, and has a fantastic day, all smiles there. Lando Norris gets his first podium at Monaco, of course. And we have one of my favorite podiums since I've been, since the season started is what I meant to say there. One of my absolute favorite podiums, probably my favorite podium since Pierre Gasly won. And that podium was really cool with Stroll and Sainz as well. So I love when we have days like this. So not too much of a battle up front, disappointing of course, but when you have Verstappen, Sainz, and Norris on the podium, and Sebastian Vettel being the driver of the day, that's a pretty fun weekend for me. I know there's a criticism about Monaco being a boring race, but really there was a lot of drama in this race, and I don't think it was. Yeah, for the lead it kind of was, but overall a really fun weekend. Beautiful day of racing, and I'm just so happy we were back at Monaco. We got another fun street race coming up next that typically has a little bit better racing than we see at Monaco as far as overtakes go. But I think with strategy and drama, it was all there in this race, and before it even, with what was going on with Leclerc. So if you like this video, please consider giving me a like and subscribe, and I will see you in a couple weeks when we hit the street courses again. See you in the next one.